Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. What we have for you today is our latest FPL team draft. Been about a week since the last one, and since that week, we have had quite a few new subscribers. So thank you so much for that. It is greatly appreciated, especially on a small channel like we've got. If you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. It is really appreciated. And let's get into the video. So we're going to start with our team rating. So shout out to Fantasy Football Hub. If you've used their tool, you'll know what I'm talking about. They've got a team rater on there where you can put your team in and it gives you a percentage rating of how good it is. I will just say that don't get too hung up on whether it's 93, 94, even 95. If you're early to mid 90s, I think, there's enough variables in a football match which can't be predicted. So I think if you're within that sort of number, even high 80s, if you really like the players, I think you'll be all right. A lot of it is your gut instinct as well, especially at the start of the season. And for me, I've changed the goalkeepers around. I've gone with Edison instead of Pickford. And for me, it's just more of a safe bet as a team in terms of Man City compared to Everton. I think Pickford is probably better value at his price for the points that he could get. But Edison's getting more points, let's face it. So if you can afford it, you might as well go for someone a bit more expensive if they're getting more points, even though it goes against my usual strategy for keepers of 4.5 and 4 million. Although I have gone down to 4 million on the bench with Ariola. He is someone that could play for West Ham, and we'll wait and see if that's the case. In defence, I've gone with the back three. Pretty much the same, apart from I've swapped Ruben Diaz to Stupinan. Stupinan's really heavily owned in FPL, about 51%. I'm not sold on him completely, but Brighton's first three fixtures do look good with Luton, Wolves, and West Ham. Um, and him and Edison are possibly better than Diaz and Pickford. I've kind of combined them together as a bit of a package deal. And when I looked at them, they're both pairs are the same price. And I just think maybe Stupidan and Edison just a bit more solid, a bit more secure overall, especially early on as we get our teams off the ground. On the bench from defence, I've stuck with Baldock from Sheffield United and I've swapped Mings for Digne. Now, for me, the reason for that is Villa are still really, well backed as a team for the start of the season. But there's four defenders at centre back for Aston Villa in Diego Carlos, Pau Torres, Concert, and Mings, who are all going for places. And I kind of thought maybe I could avoid that risk and go for Digne, who, if he's fit, he will be starting for Villa at left back, I would have thought. And we're not that far away from a few seasons ago where he was a real highly thought of FPL asset where he could be bombing down that left wing and providing those crosses, and he was on set pieces. So he's someone that I could get rotated into my starting lineup, and he's only 4.5 million, which I think is really good value. In midfield, we're sticking with the five men across the midfield, and I've kept Saka, Martinelli, and Mbuemo. I just really rate Arsenal. I think they'll be better at the start of the season, as usual, than they will at the end. And I just think Martinelli will play a lot. I know a lot of times we're thinking, is Martinelli going to be rotated out? But I think it proved last season that it's not the case, and he will probably start more often than not. And for me, he is that 0.5 million cheaper than Saka and Odegaard, and he's worth that extra value. I'm interested to see how Mbuemo gets on with no Ivan Tony. If he's going to play further up the pitch, I think that's really good shout because he's going to be on for a clean sheet point, and any goal that he scores is going to get an extra bonus point. And for me, I'm absolutely prepared to be fooled by Saka, but I'm all in as it stands. I'm on the Saka bandwagon, and I just think he's going to have a fantastic season again, and he's absolutely worth it. I would 100% recommend him being in your team. I don't see a team where I don't have Saka in it. Rounding out the midfield, what we're going to go with is from the previous draft, I've swapped Jota and Eze to Foden and Bruno Fernandes. I think Foden will have kept himself, in great condition. He won't have over celebrated too much. And now that Mahrez has gone, I really do think it opens up a space for Foden to have a breakout year. He is someone that could, every year we're kind of thinking, is this going to be Foden's year? And then he ends up on the bench more often than not. I do think this year, he's that little bit older, a little bit more experienced. He could be ready to take that step. And again, He is someone that could hit the ground running at the start of the season. Bruno Fernandes, I think, whilst he could be playing a little bit deeper, I do think that he's still likely to be on set pieces, and he is the new Man United captain, so he's definitely going to be on the pitch. Sometimes he might be assisting the assister, but a lot of times I still think he's going to get forward. He's still going to be attacking. If he's got Casemiro sat behind him, and I just think he is someone at 8.5 million you can absolutely see as fantastic value. Someone that's dropped down a couple of million, 1.5, 2 million from last season. I just think, he's absolutely worth that difference in price, I think, to get in your teams, especially now Rashford is 9 million. I'd be interested to see how those two players compare as the season goes on. Up front, there's not really any changes to the starting strikers. We're still sticking with Haaland and Watkins. I think both speak for themselves. Watkins got 15 Premier League goals last season and finished the season on really good form. I think there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to continue that into the start of this season. On the bench, I have swapped out Calvert-Lewin for Wissa. Now, I know two Brentford attackers without Tony taking the attention from them is a risk, so he may swap out. I'm just kind of still tweaking that bench role, especially that first one off the bench. But I am leaning towards a 3-5-2 for as my kind of solid formation going forward. I think that's a good one for FPL. So overall, value is 99.5 million. The strengths, they're all secure starters in their squad, apart from possibly Foden. I think you could also make a case for Martinelli to be rotated out, but to me, that's a matter of opinion. Everyone else should be pretty much dead cert starters in their teams, guaranteed minutes. So therefore, hopefully, I won't need to go too far down the bench. There's also some high-owned players in this team, like we said, Estupinan, Saka, Haaland, a few others. I think if you've got a few highly owned players, I think then there's safety in numbers. If they don't do well, then lots of people also aren't doing well in their FPL teams. So whilst that's maybe not the best way of looking at it, it is kind of a bit of a safety net that if you don't want to go completely differential and end up really far behind, it is good to have some highly owned players in your FPL team. And these are players that should do well on average. They might have the odd week where they maybe don't score or don't do very well, but that should average out over like a block of 4 or 5 game weeks where they should be getting, 4, 5, 6 points a game on average, you would like to think. So hopefully that will show as we start the season. The weaknesses are the bench still, like I said, I'm not too sure on how we're going to be rotating this if one team has a bad fixture or if somebody isn't starting. It's a little bit hard to do if you've got one or two transfers needed early on at the start of the season. So the bench still needs some work. And is it too much Brentford? Probably. Having two attackers, that's still a position, like I said, that is up in the air. So yeah, let me know what you think about my team. Do you think the changes I've made from the previous video are good? Is there anyone that I'm missing out on my team that you think I absolutely must get in? Or are there any players that I've got in that you think are just an absolute nightmare waiting to happen? So thank you very much for listening. Please do like and subscribe, especially if you've made it this far in the video. It is free to subscribe, so it is greatly appreciated. All the support we get as we go towards the new season, and I will see you in the next one.